Sophie hadn't noticed him at first. When she joined the company, a fast-growing law firm known for its complex litigation cases, she was just a fresh 23-year-old straight out of university, grateful to land a full-time role as a legal assistant. She kept her head down, eager to learn, and boy, was she learning a lot. In just 3 months, she had mastered the art of staying 3 steps ahead of every associate she supported. She learned which partner wanted hard copies for every briefing, how to prep court filings, and how to read between the lines of every client's email. Sophie was reliable, observant, ambitious, and she knew exactly what she wanted. It was her 3rd month at Morris and Sinclair when the firm landed a high-profile corporate fraud case that had the entire office buzzing. It was the kind of case that made careers and ruined them. Sophie was assigned to assist the internal litigation team handling documents and filing, the lead strategist, a trio of top partners, and Mr. Nathan, head of case strategy. He wasn't her direct boss. She had only seen him during floor-wide updates and Monday morning briefings. Everyone knew who he was. Sharp, composed, intelligent, and good-looking, of course. People whispered that he had been headhunted from a top-tier firm 2 years ago and hadn't lost a single case since. Sophie didn't think he even knew her name. It was 2 days of working on the case, and Sophie had stayed behind after most people had clocked out. She was finalizing evidence logs and arranging documents for next day review. It was nearly 8 p.m. Luckily, her parents had helped her get a small apartment not far from the office where she landed the job. So you won't stress over late hours, her mom said. Sophie liked the solitude. She liked being the one still working when everyone else left. It gave her a strange sense of purpose. She was halfway through scanning a file when she heard footsteps. She looked up, startled. Mr. Nathan stepped out of his glass-walled office, jacket in one hand, briefcase in the other. She hadn't even realized he was still around. "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to startle you," he said, stopping few steps from her desk. She straightened. "No, not at all. I just didn't think anyone else was here." He gave a quick glance at her laptop. "Document review for Fenway case?" She nodded. "I'm just rounding up." He smiled just a little. "Clean work. I noticed the summary notes earlier. Sharp formatting." Sophie blinked. He had read them. Then she said, "Thank you, sir. Try not to sound too surprised. Don't stay too late. It will still be here in the morning," he said. And with that, he walked towards the elevator. That moment stayed with her. "He's not even as strict as I thought," she found herself thinking. Over the next week, Nathan started greeting her in passing. Nothing over familiar, but always personal. "Morning, Sophie. Long night yesterday. Your filing system is impressive. It makes our job easier." Simple comments. Observant ones. He'd read her notes, noticed her formatting. Then, during a litigation team meeting, she quietly suggested a change to the appendix timeline. Most people barely looked up, but Nathan turned from across the table and said, "That's actually a great idea. Let's build on that." A few heads turned her way, and she felt her face warm. After that, it became hard not to notice him. He always joked with her, asked for her input, like she had something meaningful to always contribute. And sometimes, in meetings, she felt his eyes on her, just briefly. Once, she passed him in the hallway with a stack of case files. A binder slipped from her hands and hit the floor. Before she could bend to pick it up, he was already there beside her. "Let me help with that." She started noticing him more and more after that. His smile, warm and subtle, always felt different when it was directed at her. The way he was kind to everyone, yes, but somehow kinder to her, if that makes sense. He'd occasionally offer to drop her at home after long nights at the office. They started texting, work-related mostly, but sometimes he would say, "Did you end up watching that documentary?" Or, "I told you coffee after 3 p.m. was a bad idea." She found herself over-analyzing his replies. Other times, she would read his message just to feel that soft flutter again. There was nothing explicitly romantic, but it was warm and consistent. He was thoughtful, careful with his words, always impeccably dressed, sharp suits in deep understated colors. During intense review sessions, he sometimes wore reading glasses, which only made him more composed and sexy. She started catching glimpses of him during briefing meetings. Once, their eyes met across the boardroom table. He didn't look away immediately, neither did she. Their interactions became more frequent. Once, he flirted with her, just lightly, and she replayed the moment in her head a little too often. She smiled. That smile lingered for the rest of the night, and she hated that it did because Sophie knew he was married. It wasn't a secret. He wore a ring, occasionally mentioned home or my son in passing, but he never really talked much about his personal life. She told herself it was harmless, just a crush, a phase, it will pass. She wasn't doing anything wrong. They weren't sticking around, I mean. But still, she knew how her heart quickened when she saw his name pop up on her phone. She knew she paid more attention to how she looked when coming to work. She knew she looked for him even when she didn't mean to. And knowing that made everything feel heavier. Then came the evening it rained. It had started raining heavily right around 5:40 p.m. The kind of sudden, angry downpour. A few associates who had planned to leave earlier settled back into their desks. The office didn't empty as quickly as usual. No one wanted to get drenched, so they waited for the rain to subside. Sophie had intended to leave by 6, but the storm gave her a reason to stay. She had slipped in her earbuds and continued updating the case documents she had been working on. Mr. Nathan was still around too. His office door was slightly open. Occasionally, she glanced up and saw him pacing, phone pressed to his ear. After about 40 minutes, the rain eased, still steady but no longer violent. People started filing out. The receptionist waved goodbye. Sophie was putting her things together, getting ready to leave. Then her phone lit up. Mr. Nathan, rain's lightened. Wants me to drop you off. She hesitated, then typed, sure, thank you. They met in the lobby 5 minutes later. He held the door open. She slid into the passenger's seat. Didn't think you'd still be walking, he said as he started the engine. Didn't think you would be either, she replied. I was actually preparing to leave just before your text came in. He smiled. They gisted on the way. Work talk mostly. Court schedule, client delays, and upcoming merger cases. But somewhere in the middle, the conversation drifted to lighter things, personal things, and phone questions. Before she knew it, he had pulled up outside her apartment. The rain had picked up again. Let's wait it out a bit, he said. She nodded. He turned slightly towards her. He reached out, almost unsure, and gently placed his hand on her lap. She looked at his hand, then at his face. He leaned in slowly, watching her eyes. Then he kissed her. Her eyes fluttered shut for a moment, then opened again, confused. He pulled back just a bit, realizing what he had done. I'm sorry. I think the rain has subsided. Let me not keep you out so late. Good night, Sophie. Sophie came down and hurried to her apartment. She barely slept. She tossed and turned for hours, replaying the moments again and again. The softness of his lips, the weight of his hands on her lap. By morning, she kept rehearsing what she would say if he brought it up. What if he pretended it didn't happen? What if he apologized and made it weird? When she arrived at the office, he wasn't at his desk. She felt relief. At 11:02 a.m., a Slack message popped up. Mr. Nathan, can we talk? My office. When you have a moment. She walked in 10 minutes later. He stood from the desk. Close the door, please. She did. I owe you an apology, he began. Sophie crossed her arms loosely. Okay? I shouldn't have touched you last night. I crossed a line. I let a moment cloud my judgment, and I need to say, I'm sorry. He continued. I'm not sorry I kissed you. Her eyes flickered up, surprised. I mean it. I'm sorry for how it happened. I should have asked. I should have made sure it was something you wanted, but I'm not going to stand here and pretend I didn't want to do it anyway. That I haven't wanted it for a while now. I felt something, Sophie, and I hoped you feel it too, he said. She didn't respond. So he added, but if I misread things, if it wasn't mutual, please tell me. Sophie's voice came out softer than she intended. You didn't misread it, but that doesn't mean it isn't complicated, she added. I know, he said, but we'll figure it out. Over the next few weeks, they grew closer. They hung out outside work more often, sometimes dinner, other times a quiet movie night. He visited her apartment often too, but never stayed over. One evening, curled up on her couch with the TV playing in the background, she looked over and asked lightly, how does your wife let you stay out this late? He answered, we're not really on good terms anymore. Barely talk unless we have to. The marriage has gone sour for years now. Then he looked at her and said, said, "You are the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. Sophie, maybe you were meant to show up now. Maybe this was fate's way of reminding me what happiness felt like." Things went on at work. Their relationship also grew stronger. Then, one afternoon, after lunch, Sophie was walking back from the break room when an older associate, Mrs. Debbie, one of the senior legal secretaries, stopped beside her. She smiled gently. "This one that you and Mr. Nathan are always so close," she said, raising a brow. "Just be careful, Sophie." Sophie blinked. "What do you mean, ma?" Mrs. Debbie lowered her voice. "You remind me of one of the assistants we had 2 years ago, Julia. Very sweet girl, sharp, and she was also close to Nathan." Sophie frowned. "Huh?" Mrs. Debbie sighed. She left suddenly. No one really said why, but word eventually got around. She got pregnant for Mr. Nathan. Then Mrs. Debbie gently touched Sophie's hand. "I don't want to see you go through something like that." And she walked away. Sophie stood in the hallway, frozen and shocked. She already knew something was off about their relationship. She always had to convince herself she wasn't doing anything wrong. She pushed down her guilt, her gut feeling. But now, she couldn't even ignore that feeling. That evening, she asked him to come over. He did, a bit worried about her tone. That moment, they got into the car. She didn't hesitate. "What exactly do you want from me, Nathan?" He was caught off guard. "What do you mean? I mean, what is this that we are having to you? Am I just your escape, your distraction? What are we actually doing here?" He paused too long, then said, "I care about you, Sophie. But what does that even mean?" He didn't answer. He looked at her like he wanted to say something, but the words didn't come out. And that silence was enough answer for her. Sophie stepped out of the car and walked back into her apartment. That night she cried. She was heartbroken. She felt used, felt cheap. She vowed to stop replying to his messages, and she even blocked him. To stop meeting him outside work, to stop giving herself to someone who only met her halfway. She chose herself. But it wasn't easy. She still saw him in the office, passing in the hallway, standing in the boardroom, and laughing with partner. Her heart still ached. She really missed him. He tried to talk to her, tried to make things right, but there was no making right. She reminded herself, "You're not a placeholder, you're not a secret, and you're definitely not going to be the next Julia." When HR sent around the internal memo asking employees to update their profile for their annual firm directory, Sophie took it as a sign. She drafted her resignation letter that night. 2 weeks later, she was leaving the firm for good. She had cleared her desk. She had applied to other law firms but hadn't gotten a response yet. But she couldn't wait around. Some heartbreaks don't explode. They dissolve with dignity and lessons. If this story moved you, click the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the best African stories. Up next is the story of Lindy and Table and how they made the wrong decision by donating their eggs.